been very fortunate. The people I met in my life, they were very generous. And it has been a very good life full of music. I played at home some kind of a rock and roll. Back then it was Wild Thing, Rolling Stones. One day my father, who was a conductor of the chorus for the National Opera, walks in and says, listen, it's a fellow playing at the opera tonight, and his name is Andres Segovia, and I think you should see him because you might get an idea how you're supposed to play that guitar. So we go to the opera, and it's a packed house, and there are balconies, and we're up on the 4th balcony, you know, a bunch of us like students, or conservatory students, and we're waiting and we're joking, and they sort of helped this fat old guy walk on the stage, you know, he barely could walk, he was overweight, his fingers were like sausages. He sits down on the chair, and somebody had to bring him the guitar. So they bring the guitar, and at that point we're laughing. And he just sits down, he tunes a little bit, and he starts playing. And we just about broke our jaws because the man was God. I think there are others more technical than Segovia. But to me, because it was my first experience with the classical guitar, I have been the most impressed. And since then I wanted to play classical guitar, so I went home, and the rest is history. I became a classical guitarist. Building guitars now, that's a different story. I came here, and I had a handmade guitar, and something went wrong with it, and it needed repair. So I inquired in town, and I said, I need to fix my guitar. They said, yes, you will go to Martin Noriega. I said, okay. So I went there, and this scary-looking guy opens the doors, so we start communicating. And from the work I see in the shop, he's a master. So I say, with a very heavy accent, when are you going to touch my baby? He said, what? I said, what day are you going to touch my baby? I want to be there when you touch it. He said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Greece. He said, huh. So he gave me the date, and I was there, and I was impressed. He caressed the guitar, and he fixed it. And we became friends, and I started hanging out in the shop, and we started doing some woodwork, and then we would have wine, and he played a little guitar, and we would sit down. This man showed me everything he knew. That doesn't mean that I learned everything he showed me, but he showed me everything he knew. He was very kind, extremely talented, a 4th-generation cabinet maker from Italy, Sicily. And he was a walk-in library when it comes to wood. We have a very nice piece of Honduras mahogany, and when the grain of the wood runs straight, it is called a quarter sawn. First thing we do is we take the neck, and after we make a cut at a certain angle, then it becomes a very simple thing of reversing the wood, and automatically we have the angle we want. The next thing we do is we take the block and we glue it to the end of the neck, and this way this will become the heel that is at the outside of the body, and then the support from the inside of the body where the sides will actually be built into that part. The next thing that happens is a faceplate, as it is called, this piece of wood here, is placed on the very top of the neck for 2 reasons. The one is aesthetics, because if there is a rosewood fingerboard, then there is a matching rosewood headplate, and at the same time it conceals the joint, which is barely visible after it's sanded down. The next step is, after this is glued, a very rough cut takes place to give a basic idea of what is going on, and at the same time the marking of where the 12th fret of a traditional guitar is going to be placed, because that is exactly where the body will join the neck. Slats at the side where the 12th fret will be are open. This way the sides of the guitar will actually go into there. And a rough outlay of the heel by the table saw is done, and then right after that it will be chiseled out to the final form. I started building guitars back in the 80s. However, I did not build a guitar for myself until the 90s. I would build guitars for other people, and people will see me and they would say, "What do you play?" And I had a Ramirez that I was playing at the time, and I said, "I'm playing a Ramirez," which is very respectable. And they said, "Well, let me get this straight. You make guitars, but you play a Ramirez?" And I would say, "Yeah." And then it didn't sound good to me that I play somebody else's guitar. And I started making guitars for me, and that was very interesting, because up until then I was making conventional guitars. But I always wanted to make a 24 fret guitar because of the extended range of the 2 octaves. I called everywhere and they told me that there are no plans for it. However, there are some findings of extended range guitars back in 1700 and something, but they were not full frets or anything. They would just put little wires on the guitar. And I started working on the idea of a 24 fret guitar with no cutaway or anything. And it materialized in 95. 94 actually. In other words, the body here, it's 15 frets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And that gives me another 9 frets. So this is the open string. Here is the 1 octave, and here's the other octave. So I have 2 full octaves per string, and that is a tremendous advantage if one is to play with string quartets or orchestras, because one can go on adapting the instrument to the way it is supposed to be played and not the melody to accommodate the instrument. So it's not only the sound, it's not the range, but it's existing pieces that I always was extremely careful with how to play them. Now they just play themselves. And then we come to the top, which is the most important part of the guitar. This particular top, it's a little thicker than what eventually will end up being. It's European spruce, and as it happens with the better quality woods that a maker orders, it's what is called a book-matched piece. The same goes for the back. So what happens is the back and the top is one piece, and they just are cut in two. This way the exact same variations on the grain appear on both sides, as far as the back goes. As far as the top goes, the importance is very crucial, because all these different grains built into the wood, if they're only on one side and not the other, then there will be extreme variations in the sound. As the nails come out, that gives me the opportunity to feel if the wood is expanded and if it is under stress. This wood feels very good. I have decided to make a slightly oversized guitar, and this is the pattern. When the pattern is transferred from the actual design to the wood, the best way to do it is with half size. This way, any kind of imperfection or any kind of peculiarity of the shape can be completely identical by flipping it on the other side instead of making a full-size model. And this way, I have my guitar, my bass outline. My next step is to open a hole, a 3/8 hole right here, so I can put a dowel, and then I have a circular cutter that it will make the initial cuts for the channel that I'm going to chisel out for the rosette. Spent several months designing a pattern of bracing that will respond to the placement of the bridge, which is where the strings are attached, instead of back here, because in order to have 24 frets, no cutaways or no other abnormality on the guitar or unusual aspect of the guitar, I had to join the guitar, the body of the guitar joins the neck at the 15th fret. And thus we have radical changes, and I found out this pattern of bracing to work the most in terms of tuning and responsiveness. I have utilized 3 little bridges here, and then the bracing method is almost like a series of large and small X's or V's, and I have 2 V's this way and 1 inverted. No matter how I looked at it, I found out that these points that the bridge is going to be on the other side of the wood can be very easily tunable, as well as the whole traverse of the length, and then I take the brace from here all the way here, where on the traditional method the braces stop right here and then they continue with finger braces right here. The back has to do a lot with the sound depending on what wood is used and the thickness of the back. Now this, if you remember, these are the pieces we started with, 1/4 inch pieces of rosewood. I have gone ahead and I have prepared, for the purpose of our presentation, a back made out of 2 identical pieces like that, and I put a decorative strip in the center. And this is rosewood. The thickness of it is a little over 1/16, slightly over 1/16 of an inch. It's almost like 3/32 actually, and I have braced it. There is no really traditional rule of bracing. Some people use 3 braces like that, some people 4. This back, to me, wood has life, and it dictates how many braces need to be put and where. Yes, I have a pretty basic idea where I will put them, but sometimes I will put more or less depending on what the wood tells me to do. So in this back I put these 4 braces. I already have contoured them and chiseled them and scalloped them, and they're ready. And this pretty much is the back in the rough form of being prepared to put on the body before sandings and before anything else. The bending of the sides, it's a process that is not as difficult as it looks. What it is I wet those sides for about 6 hours in water, sometimes warm water, and then I have a heating element. It's a pipe about 3 inches in diameter or 4 inches, and I heat it inside, and after it becomes hot, I have already made my markings or the curves. So I go this side and I curve this first, then the big curve, and then the little curve. After I am done with the initial curving, I put it in a mold so the shape is maintained, because if you leave wood like that, the wood has memory and always will go back to where it was. So we're in this side. Let's work half a side at a time, so this way it's easier to see what is taking place. This is called kerfing, and what it is really, it's either cedar or balsa wood that I take through a little ruler that I have with stops, and this way I run my saw blade, and these are actually cuts of the saw blade, so it can be flexible. This way I can apply it around here. And in the application, I just simply apply glue on that. Time to see if the whole sides are completed. That pretty much will conclude the actual guitar body. Let's take a look at them. I'm very happy with the sound.